You ever wake up and feel like the whole world got rewritten while you were asleep? Like the script changed, the actors swapped, and suddenly you're the villain in someone else's fairy tale. One moment you're crawling your way through the mud, trying to earn your piece of peace, and the next, boom. The lights shift, the stage flips, and every rule you memorize gets burned to ash. You know what people hate more than chaos? A quiet takeover. The kind they don't see coming. No fireworks, no announcements, no drum roll. Just a cold shift in the air, and suddenly the world's upside down and nobody can explain how or when it happened. One moment everything's normal. The same games, same masks, same recycled lines. And the next, the entire stage is rearranged. The king's crown is in the gutter, the clown's on the throne, and everyone's acting like it's always been that way. Like they remember it that way. But deep down, oh, they know, they felt it. That snap, that flick of the switch. Power doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't beg for attention. Real power, it walks in, uninvited, rearranges the furniture, and waits for the panic to start. Because the panic always comes. People aren't scared of change. No. They're scared of not being in control of the change. They're scared when the story shifts without their fingerprints on the page. That's what gets under their skin. That's what rattles their bones. They like power that moves slow, predictable, tame, not the kind that flips the script overnight and dares you to read it again out loud. You see, the ones who play by the rules, they're always surprised, always caught mid-sentence, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the bottom fell out so fast. But the ones who were watching closely, the ones who stopped trusting the spotlight and started reading between the glitches, they saw it. They felt the tension in the room. They knew something was loading in the background. A force, a voice, a hand on the switch just waiting for the moment when the silence got too loud to ignore. But people don't like overnight success stories. Makes them nervous, makes them question their own timelines. So they don't call it a shift, they call it suspicious. They don't call it power, they call it luck. As if the person who flipped the story didn't bleed behind the scenes. As if they didn't die 100 quiet deaths before deciding enough was enough. Because that's what it takes. Not noise, not applause, just a decision. A cold, quiet, irreversible decision to stop waiting for a plot twist and become one. And the best part, the powerful one doesn't need to explain it, doesn't need to justify it. The moment the story flips, everything becomes clear. Who was real? Who was waiting? Who was never ready? That's when the masks slip, when the roles fall apart. Because power, real power, doesn't care about applause. It doesn't need to be liked. It just needs one thing: the courage to flip the story when no one expects it, and the spine to stay quiet when the world starts begging for answers. Everyone thinks the story belongs to them. The crowd, the noise, the echo chamber that repeats the same lullabies until you start humming along in your sleep. They think if enough of them agree on a version of reality, then that must be truth. They think if they all point at the same hero and boo the same villain and chant the same lines, they're in charge. That the plot only moves when they give it permission. But the story was never theirs. It was never meant for the masses. It was just waiting for someone mad enough, wild enough, awake enough to snatch the pen mid-sentence and carve a different ending with a broken grin. See, the crowd doesn't build anything. The crowd consumes, applauds, judges, disappears. They follow the script like background actors, mouthing empty lines and pretending they matter. They talk a lot about destiny, justice, success, but only when it fits their version. The moment someone steps outside the frame, they panic. Because deep down, they don't want a real story. They want a pattern. Something they can predict, tear down, and forget about by morning. But when someone shows up and flips it, when someone powerful enough changes the entire plot overnight, they can't handle it. It burns their eyes. Because the real story, it belongs to the outcast, the anomaly, the glitch. The one who saw through the curtain and realized the game was rigged from the start. The one who stopped waiting for a round of applause and started building something louder in the shadows. That's the one who earns the story. Not the one playing by the rules, but the one rewriting them with a jagged smile and steady hands. And when it flips, oh, the silence is deafening. No more cheers, no more critics, just confusion. They stare like deer in headlights, hoping it's just a scene, just a phase. But the story's already changed. The ink's dry. The narrative has a new architect, and the people who once mocked you, they're busy trying to translate a language they never bothered to learn. Because they only know how to follow stories, not create them. They only know how to consume the fire, not become it. The story isn't democratic. It doesn't care how many people believe in it. It only responds to one thing: audacity. The guts to walk into a burning room and claim it's yours. The nerve to take center stage when no one claps. The fire to flip the script even if you have to read it alone. That's who it was waiting for. That's who it belongs to. Someone who doesn't just break the fourth wall, they burn it. They don't hear it, do they? That thick, uncomfortable stillness that creeps in right before the world goes sideways. The silence before everything flips. Oh, they laugh through it, scroll through it, dance through it, pretending it's just another quiet night. But silence is a setup. It's the kind of quiet that holds its breath before screaming. The kind of calm that isn't peace, it's pressure. And if you listen close enough, you'll hear the ticking. Because something's always ticking, waiting, watching, winding up behind the scenes while everyone's too distracted by their own reflection to notice. They think storms always come with thunder, that revolutions come with banners and blood and explosions. But no, the real ones, the dangerous ones, they don't start loud. They start when everything seems just fine. When the coffee still tastes normal, the news still lies with a straight face, and the world keeps turning like it's not about to snap in half. That's when it happens. That's when the switch gets flipped. The silence? That's the sound of something powerful pulling back the slingshot. You don't feel the shift until it's already in your chest. See, most people don't fear the noise. They fear what comes before it. The moment when your gut starts to whisper, something's off, but your brain shrugs it off. That moment when the air changes and you're suddenly aware of how loud the quiet is. You ever felt that? That prickling itch in your mind, like someone's turned the page, but you haven't caught up yet. That's not paranoia. That's perception. That's awareness clawing at your eyelids, trying to wake you up before the curtains drop. Everyone wants to believe they'll see it coming, that they'll recognize the signs, feel the tremors, hear the warning bells. But no one teaches you to read silence. No one tells you that the absence of sound can scream louder than anything you've ever heard. They want big drama, loud betrayals, flashy entrances. But real change, real flips in the story, they slither in like a shadow at your feet, stretch up your spine, and smile when you shiver for no reason at all. So what do? They brush it off, distract themselves, pretend silence means safety. They don't realize the room's gone cold, that the temperature shifted because someone powerful just walked in and sat down in the dark. They keep talking, laughing, posting, performing, while the story rewrites itself behind their back. They're not paying attention. Not really. They're tuned into noise, not signals. Emotion, not energy. And when the silence finally breaks and the shift becomes obvious, they'll look around for someone to blame. But the change? It's been there the whole time, waiting in plain sight, daring anyone to notice before it all flips for good. They always say change takes time, don't they? Like there's a process, a schedule, a waiting room where the future politely taps its foot until someone calls its name. But no one tells you the truth. The shift happens fast. It bends around corners you didn't even know were there. 1 minute, the world's laughing at the same jokes, bowing to the same lies, worshiping the same puppets, and then something bends. Subtly, quietly. And suddenly, none of it fits anymore. It's not a gradual slide, it's a snap. See, when the real ones move, they don't ask for attention. They don't post announcements or throw parades. They sit in the dark, sharpening silence into strategy. They vanish from the party and return with the blueprint. And when they flip the board, it's not rage that drives it, it's clarity. Cold, clean, surgical clarity. Because while everyone else was rehearsing the same tired lines, someone was backstage rewriting the entire third act. Reality doesn't ask permission to change. It doesn't wait for your comfort. It shatters your expectations like glass and makes you walk barefoot through the pieces. And the powerful, they don't just endure that, they enjoy it. They see the fear in others' eyes when the script goes missing and smile, because they were never playing by it anyway. They understood the rules were fake. They studied the patterns, then cracked them. Not for applause, not for fame. Just to remind the world how fragile its illusions really are. You ever seen someone step into a room and everything just pauses? Not because they're loud, not because they demand it, but because their presence bends the air. That's not luck, that's weight. The kind of weight you earn when you've buried your old self and built something dangerous in the ashes. And when that kind of person moves, they don't need to warn you. The story warns you for them. The lights flicker. The air stiffens. And suddenly what used to feel solid now feels like paper. The mistake people make is thinking big moves need big moments. But real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't raise its voice. It just rearranges the world while everyone's distracted. It drops one decision, one truth, one crack into the surface, and watches the whole structure crumble. No shouting, no speeches, just results, just aftermath. By the time people realize what happened, they're standing on a stage that no longer belongs to them, reciting lines from a scene that was cut 10 pages ago. So when someone flips the story overnight, it's not an accident. It's not a glitch, it's precision. It's a message in motion. I'm done waiting. I'm done watching. And now you get to sit in the audience while I burn the old script. They don't do it for chaos, they do it for correction. A little turbulence to remind the system it's not unshakable. A little shock therapy to wake the masses from their comfortable coma. And they don't need your permission to do it, they never did. They just needed the right moment to strike the match and vanish into the smoke. The ones you call powerful aren't loud. They don't scream. They don't march in, throwing sparks just to be seen. No, real power doesn't need an introduction. It walks in quietly, unnoticed, until the walls start shifting, and suddenly the room doesn't feel the same anymore. You feel it in your spine before your mind can even catch up. That cold drop in the atmosphere, like something sacred just got desecrated and reborn all at once. See, when power really moves, it doesn't throw a tantrum, it rewrites gravity. You ever seen a room full of confident people go silent because one person stepped in? That's not reputation. That's not fame. That's presence. That's what happens when someone carries enough chaos inside them to tilt the axis of every conversation without even speaking. The furniture stays the same, the lights don't flicker, but suddenly everyone's sitting straighter, talking softer, pretending they weren't just running their mouths a second ago. That's power. Not granted, not inherited, earned in dark places, in quiet wars no one else had the stomach for. Reality bends, not because it wants to, but because it has to. When something too heavy for illusion walks through, the truth has no choice but to shift. And that's the problem with most people. They only recognize power once it's wearing a crown, once it's on a screen or dripping in spotlight. But by then, it's too late. The ones who move the world already made their mark in the dark. They already set the trap, already turned the wheels. By the time you see them, the story's already flipped. It's not always about noise. Sometimes the most terrifying thing in the world is silence. That calm, still moment before everything collapses. That breath before the scream. That pause before the curtain tears. When someone powerful moves, it's not the explosion you should fear. It's the quiet before. Because that's when the real damage is done. Not when the building falls, but when the foundation silently gives way. That's where the story really changes. That's where the weak start praying and the liars start sweating. They don't need to shout. They don't need to explain. They walk in and the universe makes room. Not because it loves them, not because it fears them, but because it knows them. It remembers what they've done in silence, the prices they paid when no one was watching. And now that they've returned, the world leans back, instinctively, like prey sensing the predator's shadow. Not out of respect, out of memory. Memory of what happens when power stops waiting and starts walking. They don't understand what it means when someone stops playing. When the performer puts down the mask, not in surrender, but in revolt. When the laughter fades, not because the joke's over, but because the one telling it finally realized they were never the punchline. They were the architect. You see, there comes a point where pretending becomes poison, where clapping along with the crowd feels more like self-burial than celebration. That's when it happens. That's when the powerful one walks off the stage, flips the switch, and burns the whole script they were never meant to follow. Everyone loves a good story, but no one questions the storyteller. They sit in their velvet chairs, eyes glazed over, swallowing every line like it's holy, because it's easier that way. It's easier to let someone else decide who wins, who loses, who gets remembered, and who gets erased. But the thing about stories is, they can be stolen. And sometimes the thief is the one who writes the truth in ink so sharp it cuts the paper. Sometimes the one they called unstable is the only one who saw the game for what it was. The ones who flip the story don't wait for a cue. They don't need the audience to clap. In fact, they prefer the silence. It's in that silence where the real decisions get made. Not when the lights are blinding and the music's loud, but in that hollow breath between applause and aftermath. That's where power lives. In the pause. In the moment the world looks away just long enough for a single hand to reach up and grab the spine of the narrative and twist. And oh, how they react. When it happens, when the plot turns inside out, everyone scrambles to explain it. They call it a glitch, a rebellion, a mistake. But deep down, they know better. They know something ancient just woke up in the bones of the one they tried to bury beneath expectation. The one they labeled too much, too dark, too chaotic. That's always who it is. The one they laughed at, doubted, underestimated. The one who heard the ticking long before the alarm was supposed to go off. They look at the surface and try to make sense of it, but the truth wasn't hiding there. It was buried underneath years of forced smiles, swallowed rage in silent rooms. Power doesn't bloom in spotlight. It grows in shadows. It grows in those nights where everything breaks and no one comes to help, where the only hand reaching out is your own. That's where you get sharp. That's where you get dangerous. That's where you stop asking to be included and start planning to interrupt. So when someone flips the story overnight, don't ask how. Ask when they decided they'd had enough. Ask how long they've been carrying that flame, how many times they bit their tongue until it bled, how many masks they wore until one cracked and showed teeth. Because no one flips the story by accident. It takes precision. It takes rage refined into something colder than revenge. It takes the kind of clarity you can only earn when you've stood in the fire long enough to understand that survival isn't the point. The rules is. Funny thing about exits. Most people think they're just the end of something. A quiet fade to black, a door closing, a polite little bow. But the right exit, oh, that's a performance. That's timing, precision, the perfect combination of chaos and control. You don't just walk away, you leave an aftertaste. Something they'll still be talking about long after you're gone. Most people think the trick is to stay as long as you can. Hold the spotlight until it burns your skin. Keep squeezing every second out of a moment until it's nothing but dust. But the real magic, that's in walking away at the exact second they want more. It's in leaving when the room still leans forward, hungry for your next move, only to find there isn't one. That's how you turn a moment into a memory. They can't replay what you haven't given them. So they replay what you did over and over until it's bigger in their heads than it ever was in reality. Leaving at the peak isn't cowardice. It's power. It's control. It's knowing exactly when the energy in the air is at its sharpest, when all eyes are locked, when you've got them in that perfect grip of fascination, and then slipping away before the grip loosens. Because if you stay past that point, you start to fade. The laughs aren't as loud. The nods aren't as eager. The magic starts to feel like routine. And routine kills legends. Think about it. Every great scene you remember, every story that burned itself into your mind, it's not because it went on forever. It's because it ended before you wanted it to. That ache, that little frustration, it's what keeps it alive. People will forgive you for a lot, but they'll never forgive you for being forgettable. And the surest way to become forgettable is to overstay. But leaving at the peak, that's risky, because it takes discipline. It takes a strange kind of patience. Patience to not drink the whole glass when you're still thirsty. You have to resist the urge to keep feeding on the energy, to keep hearing the laughs, the gasps, the whispers. You have to walk out with your head high while part of you is still screaming to stay. That's the test. That's where the art is. And let's be honest, most people fail it. They get greedy. They think just one more moment, one more line, one more act. And before they know it, the room has cooled. The audience has shifted in their seats, and the magic has slipped right out the back door without them noticing. They don't realize it until later, when they see the blank stares, the distracted glances, the yawns hidden behind polite smiles. By then, it's too late. You're different. You understand that the exit is part of the performance. You don't just leave. You choose the exact second when leaving turns you into a myth. You pick the point where their memory of you will freeze forever, untouched by the slow decay of familiarity. And the moment you walk away, they're left with a question that will itch at them for years. What would have happened if they stayed? That's the thing. If you give them all the answers, the story's over. If you walk out just before the ending, you give them something they can't buy: imagination. You make them finish the story themselves, and in their heads, you always come out better than you ever could in reality. You let them write you into perfection. And the beauty of it, they won't even know you did it on purpose. They'll tell themselves it was circumstance, timing, coincidence. But you'll know. You'll know that in that final moment, when they leaned in the closest, you were already halfway out the door. And that's why they'll never be able to forget you. Timing is everything. You could have the most brilliant words, the sharpest moves, the grandest plan, but if you don't drop them at the right second, they're just noise. You see, the story isn't really about what happened. It's about when it happened. A single second too early and no one's ready. A single second too late and no one cares. But hit the sweet spot. Oh, that's when the world freezes. When every pair of eyes is locked on you like you've just stolen the last breath in the room. When you control timing, you control the story. You decide when the heartbeat spikes, when the tension coils, so tight it starts to hum, when the silence becomes louder than the noise. People like to think they're in charge of how they feel, that their reactions belong to them. But when you've got timing in your grip, you're pulling invisible strings they don't even know are there. You pause, they lean forward, You move, they follow. You stop, they hold their breath. Most people rush. They think faster is better, that the sooner they get to the big moment, the better it will land. They don't realize that anticipation is a kind of currency, and if you spend it too soon, you're broke. The build up, the wait, the unbearable stretching of a moment just past the point of comfort. That's where the power is. Draw it out until they can't stand it anymore. And then, only then, give them what they came for. The release feels bigger, sharper, unforgettable. Of course, there's the other side. Drag it out too long, and you kill it. That's the fine line. You have to sense it. Feel the pulse of the room like a living thing. The air shifts when they're at the edge. The room feels heavier, tighter. That's your cue. Not before, not after. Right then. That's the moment you drop the word. Make the move, deliver the blow. And the beauty is, they'll think it happened naturally. But you'll know. You orchestrated it like a symphony, every beat in place. The real masters make timing look like instinct, like they're just in the moment. But underneath it's calculation, precision, a willingness to hold back when everything in you wants to push forward. It's a game of restraint. You're not just telling them a story. You're trapping them in one. You decide when they breathe, when they tense, when they finally relax. And when it's done right, they don't even notice the chains. Here's the thing. When you own timing, you own the memory they walk away with, because they won't remember every detail of what you did, but they'll remember exactly how it made them feel. They'll remember that drop, that moment everything clicked, that sudden rush when the tension snapped. That's what sticks. That's what lingers in their heads at 3 a.m. It's why some moments play on repeat in people's minds for years, while others vanish instantly. It's not the size of the act. It's the precision of its delivery. A word at the wrong time is just sound. The same word at the perfect time is a weapon. And the difference between a stumble and a standing ovation is just a few seconds of awareness. Most people will never master it. They'll always be slaves to the pace of the crowd, the ticking of the clock. But the ones who do, they're dangerous, because they can walk into any room and, without touching a single person, take control of them all. One pause, one beat, one perfectly timed move. And suddenly, the story is exactly what they want it to be. Silence is a funny thing. People think it's empty, that it's nothing. But nothing can be the loudest sound in the room the moment words stop. The mind starts screaming, filling in the gaps, scrambling for meaning. That's the trick. Silence doesn't erase the moment, it magnifies it. It's like cutting the music right before the drop, and everyone's just hanging there, waiting, wondering, almost begging for the beat to hit. But you don't give it to them. Not yet. You make them sweat. See, noise is easy. Anyone can talk, shout, rant. Fill the air with meaningless clutter. But it's in the silence that people reveal themselves. Their eyes shift. Their breathing changes. Some get restless, others get nervous, and a very few understand. They lean in, trying to hear something that isn't there. That's when you've got them. Because now, they're not just listening. They're invested. They need you to break it. And that's the best part. When they realize they don't have control over the moment anymore. They're prisoners of anticipation. You can stretch that silence until the tension's so thick it feels like glass. One sharp move away from shattering. And when you finally speak, it cuts through like a blade. Every word lands heavier, sharper, because it had to fight its way through that thick wall of nothing. Most people are afraid of it, afraid to let the air go still, afraid the quiet will make them look weak. But weakness is rushing to fill space. Strength is knowing you don't have to. You let the moment breathe, and you watch as they start to suffocate in it. That's when they realize the silence isn't absence. It's control. And silence, it remembers. It sticks in people's minds longer than the noise. Think about it. When someone screams at you, you remember the words for a while. But when someone just stops, looks at you, and says nothing, that stays. It gnaws at you. It plays over and over in your head, trying to decode what wasn't said. That's the kind of thing that keeps people up at night. It's not just about stopping the noise, though. It's about knowing when. Timing and silence are like twin blades. They work best together. Too soon, and it feels awkward. Too late, and the moment's already gone. But hit it right in the middle of a thought. Right when everyone expects you to keep going, and you own them. They'll wait as long as you make them wait, because now they're hooked. The beauty of it is, silence doesn't have to be long to be powerful. Sometimes it's just a pause between words, a fraction of a second that stretches like an eternity in someone's head. And sometimes it's minutes that feel like hours. The length doesn't matter, only the weight. And the weight comes from you, from how still you stand, from the way you look at them, from the way the room stops moving, because you've stopped moving. You can even layer it, use it to bait them, give them a taste of words, pull them in, then drop into silence so sharp it hurts. Let them fill it with their own thoughts, their own fears, their own interpretations. They'll create a story in that space, and you get to decide how it ends when you finally break it. And here's the little secret. Once people realize you can command a room without saying a word, they stop underestimating you. They start paying attention, because now it's not just what you might say that matters. It's the possibility that you might say nothing at all. Chaos and choreography, people think they don't mix. Like oil and water, fire and ice, right? But the truth is, the best performances are stitched together with both. You can't have all chaos. It's just noise, random flailing in the dark. And you can't have all choreography. It's stiff, predictable, easy to read. No, the magic is in blending them, so the line between accident and intention disappears. You see, chaos keeps them guessing. It's the unexpected laugh, the sudden turn, the little crack in the plan that looks like a mistake but somehow makes everything more interesting. Chaos is alive. It breathes, it moves, it keeps the pulse pounding. It tells the audience anything could happen, and they believe it. That belief, that's what keeps their eyes locked on you. But here's the trick. Chaos without control burns itself out fast. That's where choreography steps in. Not the kind with neat little boxes and numbered steps. No, I'm talking about invisible choreography. The kind where every so-called accident is already written into the script, and nobody realizes it. The kind where you look like you're losing control, but every slip, every stumble, every pause was already in your pocket before the game even started. Think of it like a dance with a drunk partner. You let them sway, spin, nearly fall, and just when the crowd thinks it's over, you catch them. Smooth, effortless. That's the moment they realize you're not drowning in the chaos. You're surfing it. And the wave, that's yours to ride or wreck. When you master that balance, you start to look untouchable. People can't tell if you're brilliant or insane And that's exactly where you want them. Because if they can't read you, they can't stop you. They'll waste their time trying to figure you out while you're 3 moves ahead, setting up the next shock, the next twist, the next perfectly timed mistake. And the beauty of it is, the chaos hides the choreography. They never see the wires, never notice the timing, never realize that you knew exactly how they'd react before they even reacted. You get to play both roles at once, the wild card and the mastermind, the storm and the eye of the storm. Most people don't understand how much discipline it takes to look that unpredictable. They think it's all impulse, all instinct. But behind the curtain, it's hours of planning, rehearsal, rewinding every move in your head until you know exactly how far you can push without losing control. It's precision disguised as madness. And when it's done right, when the chaos and choreography melt into each other, something strange happens. You stop just performing. You start pulling the strings of the entire room. Their laughter, their gasps, their silence, they're all dancing to a beat you've set. Even if they think they're reacting freely, that's when you know you've got them. Because chaos alone can scare people, and choreography alone can bore them. But when you lace the two together, you create something dangerous, something magnetic, something they can't walk away from, even if they want to. It's a show they'll remember, even if they can't explain why. That's the sweet spot, isn't it? Leaving them hungry, not stuffed, not satisfied, not slouched back in their chairs thinking, well, that was nice. No, you slip out when their eyes are still wide, their minds still spinning, trying to piece together what they just witnessed. You don't hand them closure on a silver platter. You leave the door half open, the light flickering in the next room, the kind of unfinished taste that makes them lean forward instead of lean back. See, most people are obsessed with tying everything up neatly. They want the bow, the final word, the grand finale that shouts, "We're done here." But the moment you do that, the audience relaxes. The tension breaks. And without tension, there's no hook left in their skin. If you're smart, you don't cut the tension. You sharpen it, then walk away. Let it hum in their ears long after you're gone. It's like magic tricks. The real ones don't explain themselves. Sure, you could tell them the wires, the mirrors, the sleight of hand, but why would you? You want them arguing in the car on the way home, swearing they almost saw how you did it, but not quite. You want them lying awake, playing it over and over, wondering if it was luck or skill or something they can't name, that itch they can't scratch. That's power. The perfect exit doesn't slam the door. It leaves it ajar, just enough for their imagination to crawl through. Because here's the thing, the human mind can't stand an unfinished puzzle. They'll fill in the blanks for you, and in doing so, they'll make the story even bigger, even grander than you could have told it yourself. And the best part, they'll own it. They'll carry it like it's theirs, defending it, embellishing it, passing it along like a rumor that can't be killed. It's all about restraint. You could stay. You could explain. You could bask in their applause until the room goes cold. But no, control means walking away while the air is still electric. Before the spark fades, let them chase you in their thoughts, not see you dragged out in the daylight, where all the mystery drains away. And don't think they won't notice you're gone. Oh, they will. In fact, your absence will be louder than your presence ever was. Every time they think of that moment, they'll feel the gap where you should have been, and it'll pull them right back into the memory. That's the beauty. You're not just making them remember what you did. You're making them feel it again and again. A great performer doesn't just know when to start, they know when to vanish. And vanishing isn't running away, it's control. It's stepping off the stage when you're at your highest point, before gravity can drag you down. It's leaving the crowd buzzing, restless, unsatisfied in the best possible way. Because satisfaction fades, hunger lingers. The trick is, you've got to have the nerve to do it, to ignore the temptation to squeeze one more laugh, one more gasp, one more round of applause. You've got to trust that what you've given is enough, that what you've held back is what will keep them hooked. Most can't do it. They stay too long, talk too much, explain away the magic until it's dead. But if you can resist, if you can slip away right, when they're leaning in the closest, you own them. Not just in the moment, but in the days, weeks, maybe even years to come. Because they won't remember everything you said. They'll remember how you made them feel right before you disappeared.